What's up, y'all? This is Dr. Jewel, and I am so excited to partner with Yes Lord Radio in my new radio show, Ask Dr. Jewel. I'm a doctor of nursing, a professor, a clinician, and your go-to for all things pertaining to mental health, mental wellness, and mental illness. Look, y'all, just call me America's MHS, Mental Health Specialist. So look, you all, it's time. It's time to get your minds right with Ask Dr. Jewel. What's up, you all? This is Dr. Jewel, and it's so good to be with you today. And oh my goodness, we have a show for you today. We're going to talk about educators and kids' mental health, you all. In light of all of the recent events that have happened in Nashville, Tennessee, many of you have heard of it across the country as far as the shooting that took place in one of our schools here, wherein 3 children were impacted and 3 adults, they were killed in that shooting. And you all, we want to talk about it because that hugely impacts mental health. But guess who it really, really hits? It hits our teachers, you all, and it impacts our students. So on today's show, I have an educator here. Sydney B is in the house. This
What's
is
going
Ask
on?
Dr. Jewel and friends, and I've got plenty of friends. And so Sydney B is an educator here in Middle Tennessee. In Middle Tennessee, she has a master's degree in teaching from Belmont University. She also recently got accepted into Middle Tennessee State University's PhD program in leadership. She is just doing it. She is a guest lecturer at Belmont University, and she also serves on advisory board. She tutors. She does a little bit of everything, but more than anything, she is passionate about education and about children learning and growing, specifically in the area of reading. So I am so glad to have you on the show. She is one of our young think tankers. She has a voice as it pertains to education, and I want her to bring her spin as it pertains to mental health, what she's seeing as an educator, especially in light of everything that happened just a couple of weeks ago here in Nashville. So, Sydney, thank you for being here on the show today to chop it up with us. And look, you all, we're going to continue our dialogue on this show, getting the vantage point of educators. We want to know what is going on with the mental health of educators in light of so many shootings that are going on in this country. In addition to our educators, we also want to know, what do the children think? What's going on in their young, fragile minds as it pertains to how they're processing this egregious traumatic act. So that's what we're going to talk about on Ask Dr. Jewel. You're going to hear from the educators and you're going to hear from the kids. So you know what, you all? It's time. It's time to talk about it, and it's time to get your mind right with Ask Dr. Jewel. See you back soon. For you all who are just tuning back in, I have my friend Sydney B in the house. She is an educator here in Nashville, Tennessee. And look, Sydney, we've got to talk about it. We've got to talk about, how are you feeling as an educator with, everything that has gone on as far as that shooting a couple of weeks ago? I want to know, how are you doing, my friend? How has it impacted your mental health and your colleagues? Come on, talk to me and let us know what's going on with you all mentally.
Absolutely. Well, teachers are at the place nationally and even, no, not internationally, because I will say this is specifically a problem that is prevalent in this country due to laws and legislation. Every single teacher has a lesson plan, and every single teacher has an active shooter plan. And those are the 2 things that we carry. Those are the 2 most important plans that every teacher has. I mean, I remember this is not the first time that this has happened to me specifically. I remember I was in a situation where my kids were on lockdown. We were pretty sure that there was an unsafe person in the building. The code had been called, and I had to sit in the corner and listen as 25 of my babies were crying and shaking. It was absolutely, this is the third instance in my teaching career where an active shooter has directly affected my students, our population, and my own mental health. I remember sending a text to my uncle saying, hey, if anything ever happens to me, I'm going to text you and not my father so that that's not the last thing he ever hears from me. That's what every teacher thinks about when they walk into the building every day. Who is my last message going to be to? Who am I going to tell I love you to one more time? So it's not enough for us to figure out how we're going to teach a standards aligned lesson. It's not enough for us to figure out how we're going to teach our full reading intervention block. I have to figure out who's my last I love you. I have to think through what did I say before I left the house? What's the last word I said to my husband before I got in my car? That's what I'm carrying. That's what I'm thinking about. Before I can even teach my beautiful children, I have to ask myself, hey, did I say I love you today? Did I hug this child today? Did I make them feel valued today? Because I don't know what's coming, and neither do they. So it's just uncertainty. That's the word that is framing the way I teach. That's the word that is framing the way they learn this month, in these past few weeks. It's uncertainty.
Oh my goodness. Wow. I mean, that is a lot. And I'm so glad that you're speaking to that, Cindy. We have to put a voice to what you're feeling because it matters. So I want to ask you this. How is it affecting your sleep, your eating? How are you doing mentally? I mean, are you drained? Are you use some language. I teach everyone here. We've got to start putting language to how we feel. So
Absolutely.
Sydney, how are you feeling physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually in light of everything that's been going on?
I noticed that I'm so clingy lately because the people that I love, I mean, I'll be talking to my dad and I don't want to get off the phone. You know, I'll be talking to my friends and I don't want to hang up. I just feel, I think, clingy because it's been just reiterated, the sanctity of life. And youth does not guarantee long life. And that's tragic.
That's right.
And so the first week, I was just so on edge. I mean, I was not sleeping. I was having nightmares. My students were having nightmares. I mean, I had babies falling asleep in class, and I had to let them sleep. Because I knew why they were awake. They said, we're having these terrible dreams. I can't fall asleep. I can't stay asleep. They weren't eating well. They weren't drinking water partially because nobody wanted to leave the classroom and go into the hallway to get a drink of water.
Goodness. Oh my goodness.
And so those are the conditions that my children are learning in. And those are the conditions that my colleagues and I are being told to somehow thrive in, to somehow meet the standards in, to somehow get them test ready in. It's just not working.
Right. Oh my goodness. And just get over it and move on with business as usual. And it's just not that easy. We have thank you so much, Cindy, for sharing that vantage point, for sharing how you feel, because we're not hearing this. We're hearing all of the facts, all of the news, all of the details, all of the video footage, and we're not hearing the voices of the people that matter. And so thank you so much for sharing that. Now, one thing that we're going to do today, and I think it's an amazing vantage point, our children. We have not really interviewed kids. No one is interviewing kids to say, how are you feeling in light of these events throughout the world? How is it impacting our kids mentally, emotionally? Sid, you just said you're more clingy. So if we have these types of events going on, then if your child is a little bit more clingy, we've got to talk about what parents should expect in light of these situations, because again, you don't know how your child may be processing. Is your child bedwetting? Are they starting to get angry? Are they lashing out? Are they clingy? So what is going on with your child? But guess who can tell us? The children.
Yes.
So one thing that you've done, Sydney B, and I'm so grateful that you did this, you helped us to hear children's voices. And so we are going to bring you interviews from children, our children, so that you can hear them ask questions of one another and see where they are mentally and emotionally. So come on, let's listen to kids interviewing kids about the recent shooting here in Nashville, Tennessee. Listen.
So, how do you guys feel that this keeps happening, like over and over?
I feel frustrated because the shooter must have been out of their mind, because they were just kids, and it happens that they used to go to that school, but even if they went to that school and maybe haven't had the best experiences, I don't think that they should be able to treat other people like that, because it's not like that they were killed, but they chose to kill other people, so that was just very awful thing of them to do.
I feel disappointed that we have so many people who are trying to help with all of this, but yet they still don't have a good operation to keep gun control well and steady, and people are still getting hold of multiple guns, and they're putting lots of children in risk of their lives, and I feel very sad and disappointed in this.
I feel frustrated because they were all only 8 to 9 years old. They could have lived a lot longer, but somebody decided to cut their life short.
Are you having trouble getting past this? I mean, what's the hardest part?
I don't feel comfortable. Like, after I saw that on the news, the next day I didn't want to come to school because I was really scared that something else was going to happen. But I decided I was going to power through it, and I know Jesus has got me.
I feel the hardest part of all of this happening is there are a lot of small private schools out there, and just thinking of how amazing it is that God kept us safe through all that is truly amazing. But I think that the hardest part is realizing that these were kids who thought they were going to school today and they were going to come back, have their dinner, and start the day over again. And it's so hard thinking of how that was their last time saying bye to their parents and just telling their parents that they love them. And it's truly hard thinking that any time could be your last time seeing someone that you love. So you always want to remember to be your very happiest with the ones that you love, and just remember how amazing you are to be able to be here.
I think the hardest part was returning to school because I honestly didn't feel safe. But when I found out that we got security, I powered through it and decided to come.
What could we do to help our community?
I'll drop maybe ask my parents one day if we could drive by there, since we're not that far away. I would ask my parents if we could drop off flowers and just say a prayer for everybody there.
Even just praying is a great thing that we can do for them, but we can just do our very best, and we can pray and pray and pray, and we can always drop off anything, cards or anything, any words of encouragement, just anything that could boost up a sad person.
I think we could help because a lot of schools have put up red ribbon in honor of Covenant. A lot of schools have also put up a place to make cards for families, since all of them were impacted by this.
Has your faith grown in the light of this tragedy?
I think my faith has definitely grown by a lot because seeing how everybody has been so generous and so kind to those, and some people haven't even heard of Covenant until this, and yet they're still giving all they can for them. They're praying for them, they're giving cards, they're doing every single thing they can, and it's just amazing to see that our community can still do this even through the hard, and that they still love to show their gratefulness and for Covenant and all of those kids.
My faith has grown because all around the country people are protesting for gun rights, even they know what could happen if they are caught. My faith has also grown because many schools have got more protection since before this happened.
I feel like my faith has grown because after that incident, it made me feel like I need to be way more cautious. And I also have faith in Jesus because I also know that he will put his hand over all those people that were impacted, and he'll heal them, and they will maybe like a year or two be able to come back to Covenant without having to think about that. And my faith has grown.
Wow, such powerful interviews with these kids. You just never know what kids are thinking. Sydney, how did this make you feel?
Absolutely. Kids are such deep wells, and I was just so blown away. Only a child could take a tragedy and turn it into activism, could take a tragedy and start thinking about how they could be a better community member, could take a tragedy and say, what must I do to be saved, and to come into a personal relationship with Jesus. Nobody can bring the gold and the treasure out of a terrible tragedy like a child.
Absolutely.
So let's keep listening.
Oh my God.
How do you guys feel that all this school shooting keeps happening?
I think that kids, that just shouldn't happen. No matter what their experiences are, people should not shoot anyone of any age. I just think that's wrong.
The first time I heard of a school shooting, I was scared, but it didn't stay on my mind for long enough. And when something so terrible happened so closely in our community, I felt really anxious, and I really felt I don't know why, but I felt very shamed, because it feels like anyway someone gets their life taken from them, you always should feel sad, because anyone could go to school thinking that they're going to come home and get to come play and have an amazing rest of their day when something so terrible can happen. So I felt really anxious and really sad.
I kind of just felt really just scared because it was happened so close, and it was a fellow school that was so innocent and was playing and doing schoolwork, and then somebody just came in and stopped everything.
Are you having trouble getting past all this? I mean, what's the hardest part to you guys?
I think the hardest part will definitely be coming to school, because we're a fellow school too, and we're pretty close to Covenant, and the thought of that has ever happened is just it makes you not want to come to school, because you don't know what's going to happen.
I'm having trouble getting past it a bit because everyone, they should get to live life to the fullest, and when someone else takes it from you, it's devastating. I think that you just have to make the most of life. When you go to school, you you want to say bye, but you just want to be really nice and you want to live life to the fullest because you never know when yours might end.
I think the hardest part is just coming to school after I heard the news, because it's just really scary, and that it also happened close to us. It's also really scary and sad.
What can we do to help our community? I think we could maybe just like write notes of encouragement, put flowers, and like a lot of people have been putting red ribbons up. I think that's good. And we should just like help encourage them to keep coming to school.
I think the least that we can do is pray and have sympathy because everyone, our community is so tight and that's so good that no one could take it lightly. It never didn't affect someone. So, I mean, the least that we can do is pray and understand what others are going through. And we can write notes, we can invite them over for things, and we can just help them remember that even hard parts in life, that God's going to make something beautiful out of it.
I think that we could give them some food or give them flowers or something to help them, because it's sad.
How has your faith grown in this tragedy? My faith has grown because I know that Jesus is with me, and he's with everyone, but just that it hasn't happened too much here, and that Jesus is around us.
My faith has grown so much. I've became stronger in my faith because how brave the Covenant School was. I feel that surely if they can go through something so hard, we can persevere and trust in God and keep going and persevering and just remembering that the Lord is with us no matter the circumstance.
My faith has grown just by that it hasn't happened to us yet, and that's a really good thing.
So when you first heard news of a school shooting, how did you feel? And when you heard that it just keeps happening, what are the feelings that you get?
Well, when I first heard about it, I felt really scared because it was so close to our school, and my friends go to that school and they're in 3rd grade, and I was scared for them, and so, yeah.
I felt shocked and feel bad about how the parents have to go through of those issues, and it's just hard.
I kind of felt, when I first heard the news, I was kind of heartbroken and devastated because I knew that school and I had really close friends there, and it was just kind of scary for me because I knew how much I love the school, and I know how much a lot of other people love that school, and it's just really heartbreaking to hear about this tragedy that they had to go through. Are you having trouble getting past all of this, all the feels that come, and what's the hardest part?
I think the hardest part about all this is it was close, and it keeps happening, and the government just won't assault rifles, and that's just really hard because the more people have guns, the more people lose their lives.
The hardest part is that for me is when I heard the news and I felt like people shouldn't go through this, and also the kid, because it's hard losing kid away from their families and they're just young.
I don't think I'll ever get by it because I really love that school and it's just really sad, and I don't really know how it'll do it because it'll always come back to me and it'll always come back to the families who lost their young ones, and it's just really hard for everybody right now.
What should we do to help our community?
I think that we could encourage people to find Jesus in this tragedy and keep our faith in God, and maybe write cards to the families at Covenant.
We probably could donate and help our community by doing the right things and listening to the law, and just pray more and ask God for help.
The biggest thing we probably can do is pray, because God listens and God can hear our cries, and He may not always fix them or may not always fix our problems, but we know that He will always be with us. And right now we can just pray for the people and we can just help them, take care of them, and we can just all get through this all together and know that we are all a community and we can do this all together.
How has your faith grown in light of the tragedy?
My faith has grown knowing that even though this happened and even though it was really close to us, Jesus is still with us. My faith is full of happiness for our God who watches out for us.
My faith grown when I felt like I want to help people and treat people the way that I get treated, because it's not fair when you're not getting treated the way your enemy is getting treated. So I just want to help.
Wow. What an amazing testimony of kids talking about what happened in light of the traumatic shooting in Nashville, Tennessee. Sydney, oh my goodness, these are your children. Tell me, give me a pulse. What are you thinking hearing these powerful interviews from kids?
Absolutely. I think that if we don't address this, it will address us. And so we definitely have to continue the conversation, because whether you speak about it or not, these children are being affected. So we need to continue the conversation.
Oh, absolutely. I hear a lot of themes in this. I hear, a lot of anger. I hear, people that are fearful. I hear people talking about justice, faith, so you have a whole lot of themes coming out of this. But you know what? We've got to continue the conversation because mental health is real. We've got to teach our kids tools, how to handle these events and other events that happen that bring them a lot of anxiety and fear. So let's continue the discussion on the next ADJ. Will you all tune in to our next show where we're going to continue to chop it up about anxiety, fear, trauma in children, how they're processing it, things that we can do as educators, as parents, as churches to help our kids to maneuver these situations, and also to our educators to help them as well because they need help too. So thank you all for tuning in to this week's Ask Dr. Jewel. Look, thank you. Shout out to Yes Lord Radio. We appreciate you. We love you for this platform. And we look forward to seeing you next time when we talk about trauma, kids, educators, and we bring this thing to light, giving you tools that you will need to help them. So peace. It's time to get your mind right with Ask Dr. Jewel.